Something dangerous now lies hidden beneath the dark, shifting waters of the Strait of Hormuz. It is silent, unseen, and increasingly unpredictable. No radar can easily track it, no sailor can confidently avoid it, and perhaps most troubling of all, no one fully knows where it is anymore. Not the United States Navy, not Iran, and certainly not the commercial vessels that must pass through this narrow corridor every day. What exists beneath the surface is no longer just a controlled military tactic. It has become a drifting, uncontrollable threat. Naval mines, once deliberately placed, have now been scattered by powerful underwater currents. Some remain anchored to the seabed, but many have broken loose. Drifting far from their original deployment points, these mines do not recognize boundaries or allegiances. They do not distinguish between military vessels, oil tankers, or cargo ships carrying food and essential goods. They simply wait silent and deadly, turning one of the most important waterways in the world into a zone of constant uncertainty. This is not a localized issue. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most critical choke points in the global economy. Every single day, approximately 20% of the world's oil supply passes through this narrow passage. That means 1 out of every 5 barrels of oil consumed anywhere on Earth depends on safe transit through this single corridor. Now imagine that entire system operating under the shadow of risk, where a single drifting mine could trigger a chain reaction affecting markets, industries, and governments worldwide. The implications are enormous. A single explosion involving a tanker could block the strait, halt shipping traffic, and send shockwaves through global energy markets. Oil prices would surge almost instantly. Supply chains would falter. Economies already dealing with inflation and instability could face even greater pressure. What lies beneath the water is not just a physical danger, it is a global economic threat. The seriousness of the situation became unmistakable on April 11 when the United States made one of its most decisive moves yet. 2 guided missile destroyers entered the Strait of Hormuz fully aware of the risks involved. These were not symbolic deployments or routine patrols. They were among the most advanced warships in the world, equipped with cutting-edge radar systems, missile defenses, and the ability to track threats across air, sea, and underwater domains simultaneously. As soon as these ships entered the strait, Iranian forces began monitoring them closely. This was expected. However, what followed quickly escalated tensions. The Iranian units issued a direct warning over open military communication channels, stating that the American ships were entering waters Iran considered under its control, and that continuing forward could result in serious consequences. The message was clear: turn back or face escalation. The response from the United States was equally clear. The ships did not stop, they did not slow down. They continued their mission, asserting their right to operate under international law. This moment was more than a navigation decision. It was a direct challenge to Iran's claim of control over the strait. At the peak of this confrontation, reports emerged that a drone linked to Iranian forces was destroyed by U.S. defenses. While the full details remain unclear, the significance of this event is undeniable. It demonstrated just how close the situation had come to direct military conflict. In such a tense environment, even a small engagement carries the risk of rapid escalation. Meanwhile, Iran presented a different version of events to the public. It claimed that the American ships had turned back after receiving the warning. This was not accurate. The ships had continued their transit. This contradiction highlights a critical element of the crisis: the gap between public messaging and operational reality. While Iran projected strength and control, the events on the ground, or rather on the water, told a more complex story. But the most dangerous element of this crisis is not what happens above the surface. It is what lies beneath it. When Iran deployed its naval mines, it did so quickly and under pressure. This was not a slow, carefully planned operation with precise mapping and long-term tracking. Instead, mines were placed rapidly, often from small vessels, creating an irregular and unpredictable pattern. The waters of the Persian Gulf are dynamic. Strong currents move continuously along the seabed, shifting objects over time. Anchored mines can break free. Drifting mines can travel significant distances. Over time, the original placement of these mines becomes irrelevant. Even those who deployed them may no longer know where they are. There are several types of mines involved in this situation. Contact mines detonate when a ship physically strikes them. Magnetic mines respond to the magnetic signature of a vessel passing nearby. Acoustic mines are triggered by the sound of engines and propellers. And then there are free-floating mines, perhaps the most unpredictable of all, which drift silently with the currents, waiting for an unsuspecting target. This creates an environment where no ship can pass with complete confidence. Every journey through the strait becomes a calculated risk. Clearing these mines is an incredibly complex and time-consuming task. It is not something that can be completed quickly, even under ideal conditions. It could take months to fully secure the waterway. Until then, the threat remains constant. In response, the United States has launched a coordinated mine-clearing operation. The destroyers that entered the strait were part of this effort, not just to demonstrate strength, but to begin establishing a safe transit corridor. Modern technology plays a critical role in this mission. Autonomous underwater vehicles, or AUVs, are being deployed to scan the seabed. These robotic systems use advanced sonar and detection technologies to identify mines, map the underwater terrain, and either neutralize threats or mark them for removal. Unlike older methods that relied heavily on human divers and slower equipment, these systems can operate continuously and cover large areas efficiently. They represent a significant advancement in naval operations, allowing for faster and safer mine detection. The goal is to create a navigable corridor through the narrowest part of the strait, which spans approximately 21 miles. This choke point is where the risk is highest and where safe passage is most critical. If a secure route can be established here, commercial shipping could resume under naval protection. There have already been early signs of progress. A limited number of tankers have successfully completed the journey under controlled conditions. However, this does not mean the crisis is resolved. It simply indicates that a path forward may exist if conditions remain stable. At the same time, diplomatic efforts. This failure has increased uncertainty and raised the likelihood of further escalation. In response, the United States has signaled a willingness to take more aggressive action if necessary. One such strategy involves taking direct control over access to the Strait of Hormuz. Rather than blocking traffic, this approach would involve regulating it, allowing certain ships to pass while restricting others. This would effectively remove Iran's ability to use the strait as leverage. However, this approach carries significant risks. The geography of the region makes military operations extremely challenging. The strait is narrow, leaving limited room for maneuvering. The surrounding coastline is within range of missiles and other weapons. Iran has spent years developing tactics specifically designed for this environment, including the use of drones, fast attack boats, and land-based missile systems. In such a confined space, reaction times are extremely short. Even the most advanced defense systems have limitations when faced with multiple threats from different directions. Despite these risks, the stakes are too high to ignore. The economic impact of the crisis is already being felt worldwide. Oil prices have surged, affecting transportation, manufacturing, and energy costs. Higher fuel prices ripple through supply chains, increasing the cost of goods and services across multiple industries. Shipping routes have been disrupted, with many vessels choosing longer and more expensive paths to avoid the strait. Insurance costs have risen sharply, reflecting the increased risk for many companies. Operating in the region has become significantly more expensive. Countries that rely heavily on energy imports are experiencing the greatest strain. Industrial production is slowing. Energy security concerns are growing. This is not just an energy issue, it is a broader economic challenge affecting multiple sectors. At the same time, some countries are benefiting from the situation. Higher oil prices have strengthened alternative suppliers, shifting global market dynamics. New shipping routes are being explored as nations seek to reduce reliance on vulnerable choke points. One of the most striking aspects of the crisis is its impact on Iran itself. By disrupting the Strait of Hormuz, Iran has also limited its own ability to export oil. This has reduced its revenue at a time when its economy is already under pressure. In effect, the strategy has created a self-inflicted challenge. While it increases pressure on global markets, it also harms Iran's own economic stability. Looking ahead, the future remains uncertain. In the best-case scenario, mine-clearing operations succeed, a secure corridor is established, and shipping gradually returns to normal. Diplomatic efforts resume, tensions ease, and stability is restored over time. In the worst-case scenario, tensions escalate further. Military actions intensify and control over the strait becomes contested. A single incident, whether a mine strike, a missile launch, or a miscalculation, could trigger a much larger conflict. The presence of advanced military forces on both sides only increases the stakes. In such a tense and confined environment, even minor events can have major consequences. For now, the world remains on edge, watching events unfold with growing concern. Each passing day without a clear resolution adds more pressure, not just politically or militarily, but economically as well. The longer uncertainty continues, the greater the strain on global markets, energy supplies, and international stability. The decisions made in the coming weeks will not only shape the future of this region, but could also redefine the balance of the global economy. Beneath the surface of the Strait of Hormuz, the danger still lingers. Naval mines remain scattered and unpredictable, while above the water, ships move with extreme caution, navigating routes that can never be considered fully safe. Between these two realities exists a fragile balance, one that could collapse at any moment with a single miscalculation or unexpected. The situation is no longer a question of importance. It clearly matters on a global scale. Instead, the real uncertainty lies in how it will end. The situation is no longer a question of importance. It clearly matters on a global scale. Instead, the real uncertainty lies in how it will end. Will it be resolved through careful coordination and diplomacy, or will it spiral into something far more dangerous? For now, the Strait of Hormuz stands as both a lifeline and a risk. It is a critical pathway for global trade, but also a flashpoint where geopolitical tensions converge. One spark in these waters could trigger consequences felt far beyond the region. Until stability is restored, the entire world will continue to feel the pressure of what lies within this narrow stretch of sea.